Hey, welcome back to another episode of Real Men Unscripted. I'm Derek.
I'm Domingo. Welcome back. Hope you had a great Christmas.
And you can see we have another big guy in the middle.
The same big guy from the
He's
last
the same big guy from the last episode.
Except he got bigger and we got smaller.
Yeah. So we got Kevin Lucero, who's Domingo's son, oldest son. And, okay, you're definitely going to have that.
Bring that up.
Yeah. And today's episode is how it is to be raised by Domingo, or AKA Metro Cop.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm out. I'll see you guys next week.
The federal.
So, man, I should have brought a list of questions for this one, but you know.
You know the questions. Your kids were raised in a cop's house.
And so, okay, so Domingo did like 25 years. How many years of that were like still a minor? Like how long? Like,
Well, I didn't become a cop when he was born, because he was born down in California. Right. So came here and he was born in 95, and I became a cop in 97. So I retired 20?
Well,
was it 2020?
22.
Yeah, but he basically his whole
life,
all the way to 18.
Yeah,
before,
past 18.
Yeah, but I mean, until he became an adult.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know the good stuff when he was a teenager and all that stuff. Not as an adult, still living at home, you know.
Yeah.
And hey, live at home as long as you can to save
There
money.
is no good stuff. This kid was a good kid.
So there's no. For example, Marcus got in trouble because we saw in his text one time that he was drinking. I didn't even catch him, but because of that, I took away his junior prom. So
yeah,
I probably should have him on here too. I'm probably more of a hard butt than you were, but so you know, I know you did tell the one story about him being at your school, but kind of like
I thought we deleted that episode.
No, I think it was.
It's still on there.
Yeah.
That's incriminating evidence. So we're just building the case against them.
So tell us what it was like. Like, you know, as best you can remember, like 5 or 6, and as you started getting older, like, you know, coming to your school or, you know, leaving guns around, like, you know, cleaning them at the house or whatever. Yeah. You know, kind of like at the.
You mean at the school?
Well, I was inferring that you were at the school.
Stories, so.
You were at the school on that one, but like, was there any at home, or, you know? But was he super tough, or were you just such a good kid? If not, let's talk about Ethan. If he wasn't a good kid, you know, one of them.
We'll save him for a later guest. I'm sure EJ has plenty of stories for this.
Yeah, we'll put that kid on here. We'll put him on the hot seat.
You got a firefighter coming.
So you know, because the audience, you know, having, you know, a lot of them are related to you guys, so you know, obviously we want, you know, the good and the bad.
Most of them lived through it. They saw the stuff I did. So
we found out you never did a ride along.
No, wasn't allowed
right?
to,
because the Metro didn't allow it. So that's a bummer. Like,
yeah.
could he ride with a different
Somebody
officer?
else, yeah.
Oh, and you never did
They just
that.
can't be
didn't
related.
trust him.
And you never did that.
Didn't trust him because it was a one-man car.
Yeah, they were.
You didn't trust
My partners, no. Not with my son or my wife. Heck no. If you want a round line, I'll bring you a round line. I'll give you anybody.
Okay, so like when you were like, I don't know, 8 or 10, like, did people think it was cool?
8 or 10, 5 years old.
Yeah, I think I could start with the beginning.
At kindergarten.
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, my dad was in Mogadishu. He was in, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Black Hawk Down, but when the Delta Force made a mess of things over in Mogadishu, he was in the Army of the 10th Mountain Division, and they're the ones who kind of cleaned it up and kind of got him out of there. So he's a military man on top of a police officer. So that's just, I'm
double
a survivor.
trouble.
I'm a survivor of that. So, but no, I mean, because I've heard horror stories of, you know, military dads or police dads, but no, my dad was great. He instilled fear, that's for sure. The first thing when I was growing up, he instilled fear into our hearts, but it was a healthy fear. It helped me learn to respect my parents, respect my elders. I mean, the Bible talks about it too, about there's a healthy fear and then kind of like a fleshly fear of like scared more than actual.
Sure.
But then there's a reverence and a respect kind of fear that my dad kind of instilled more than anything. Obviously, I was always scared of him because I have seen his angry side. People would tell me when he like his old partners say there were times when he would have red in his eyes, and he would see red like a bull in a china shop, and he'd get the suspects, but I would hear those stories, but it never happened to me.
Yeah.
But no, from the beginning, it was he took on the model. I probably didn't know it, but he took on a pretty healthy model of, it was like he was a pyramid parent. So I had very few restrictions when I was younger, because obviously I need a lot of boundaries when you're very young, because you don't know anything, you don't know about life. But as I grew up, as I kind of gained his trust a little more, listened to him more, things like that, it wasn't just given to me, but I was given broader boundaries. The boundaries kind of opened up a little more. I was given more freedoms as I grew up, and I kind of earned it. I was one of those square kids that really didn't get into much trouble because I was scared of the repercussions, mightily, because I was a pretty bad kid growing up. So
You were a bad kid growing up?
yeah,
Within the family.
yeah, within family. I wasn't like in school messing around.
He wasn't stealing, beating people
But
up.
like,
But he was a troublemaker.
because my mom and dad worked throughout the days,
Oh, okay.
and so I'd go to my grandmother's a lot, and there is where I'd raise hell, because I didn't know Spanish, and she didn't know English, so we couldn't really talk much. There wasn't much to do there, so my mind as a 7-year-old would race. I was thinking of things to do. I talked about this at my grandfather's funeral last week, but we used to. Everyone knows the movie Jackass, where the first scene is warning: do not try any of these stunts at home. So the first thing me and my cousins did when we were 5 or 6 was like, we're gonna recreate these stunts at my grandma's house.
Oh, nice.
So we'd send each other inside shopping carts into trees. We couldn't get on the roof, so we couldn't do the shopping cart on the roof. But yeah, we used to do some. I used to mess with my grandpa all the time, just to see what I can get away with and not. I'd steal his candies and everything.
Who was meaner than I was.
Yeah, I was a bad kid. So there were times where I'd get a whooping from my grandmother. That wouldn't be enough, so I'd get a whooping from my grandmother. And this is a different time, my friends. I was okay with the whoopings because a lot of the time I deserved it. But yeah, I'd get whoopings from grandmother. Then grandpa would come out of his little cave, give me whoopings. Then my mom would find out I was misbehaving, got my whoopings from my mom. And then my dad would come home for lunch at 8 p.m., find out I was misbehaving, get another round of whoopings. So that was about 4 whoopings a day.
And nowadays people don't get whoopings, and that's why the world's so messed up.
No, that's how the kids are messed
Now,
up.
when you would get the whooping, did they use like a rod or a stick or spatula or their hand or?
No, my dad's hand was heavy enough to where I was like, okay, I get it. There was never a doubt. There was never a time where I was just like, this is I don't deserve this punishment.
Did you ever say?
I deserved every single punishment.
Did you ever say, I'm calling CPS?
Nah, because I don't know. I was just
My
like,
kid said that
I'm
one
like,
time. I said, here, let me dial it for you.
Yeah, I was like, it's not going to
You
work.
never knew what CPS was.
Yeah. I was
Oh,
just like,
really?
I was just like, oh, this
Oh,
is
man.
going to take it from there.
It's a different lifestyle growing up Mexican, I'm telling you.
So you said, your grandma would speak to you in Spanish. Why didn't your mom and dad teach you Spanish?
I knew Spanish, but it was mostly about food. So
See, I'm going to have to interject. This kid was extremely fluent in Spanish. That's all we spoke. He went to school. Spanish
Escuela?
stopped.
Escuela? Is that
they didn't
right?
have ESL.
Escuela?
Yeah.
They didn't have.
Because, dude, everything was in Spanish growing up when he was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once he got to school, this kid was like, I don't need to use Spanish no more. And that's what he's talking about. That's when we used to take him to grandma to watch him. Because before that, she didn't really watch him. I did.
Yeah.
And then my wife would come home from work, and then she would, we'd switch. And he would speak Spanish. He would tell him, yo quiero de esto, mira. And everything was Spanish. And then all of a sudden, kid just stopped speaking Spanish.
Well, I went to school with a bunch of
White folk. You said.
white folk.
You said people that look like me
Yeah.
last time.
What did you
Little-
say?
non-melanated.
Yeah.
Non-melanated. Oh, I like that.
So yeah,
Uh,
And we did that on purpose. Like
And I
picked
didn't
the
want.
house where the best schools in the state.
And it was survival of the fittest. So I was
Oh,
like, you
yeah.
know what? I'm gonna speak English. I don't want to be, because I already felt.
Now, do you regret that now? Because like it's usually if a lot of these jobs pay extra if you speak Spanish.
Yeah, I mean, I do regret it a lot. There's a lot of times where obviously Spanish is extremely useful, but I do regret it. But I mean, I can make my way through conversations nowadays. Like when I'm working with when I'm at my job, I deal with Spanish speakers, and I work with. We're going to use the term white folk again, but I work with white folk who literally immediately, once they hear Spanish, they're like, Kevin, come on. I'm like, you probably know more Spanish than I do right now, but.
But see, and we tried though, because in middle school, I picked his electives for him.
Yeah.
Spanish was one of them
I didn't
for
get
3
a choice.
years.
I didn't
He
get
went
to
to
do
high
French.
school. I picked electives for
I
him.
picked.
Spanish.
I had Spanish in high school.
Yeah.
And
So he had
after like
7
the
years.
first week, the
Yes.
lady said, "I think you ought to quit because you can't trill your R's or your S." Like, so I literally quit Spanish.
No, I mean, we made him go to Spanish. We made him go to his grandma's house.
I mean, I minored in it. I minored in Spanish in college, so.
There you go.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that too. He
It was an
minored in
easy A.
Spanish too.
Easy.
And you don't speak it.
Yeah.
Oh,
he
that's
speaks
funny.
Actually, it was pretty tough at first because there's different dialects. Because in college they were using the Spanish,
Castilian.
the Spain Spanish,
Castilian.
and I was using Mexican Spanish, which is a lot of slang.
So who would you say speaks better Spanish, or maybe Spanish that you understand better, your mom or your dad?
I think my dad uses more slang, and my mom speaks too fast. But I can understand my dad more. But my mom speaks like when she's with her cousins when we're in Los Angeles or something. The gossip that goes through, it's like 8,000 words a minute. And I'm just like, I can maybe get a few things out, but yeah, I think I can understand my dad more because he'll speak slower. Yeah, that's my biggest problem with Spanish speakers is I can speak Spanish as long as it's slow. But you get me in front of a Puerto Rican or a Cuban, good night. I'm out the conversation. Yeah, you get me in front of them, it's literally like Eminem rapping. It's crazy fast. So, yeah, Spanish. It's there are.
Now, does Ethan speak Spanish, or
He's the worst of the three.
Yeah.
so Heather
No,
does okay?
he's number one, and then Heaven's number
Okay.
two, and then Ethan. Number
What did I say?
No,
Heather?
Heaven
I
speaks
meant
the
Heaven.
best Spanish out of all of us. I think.
No,
I think so.
You
I
think
think
so?
she always carries really good conversation with people.
And she probably,
whenever
doing what she does, she might be in contact more with them more.
and my
right?
sister's extremely smart, so she picks up things like nothing. So, yeah, when she wanted to learn Spanish, she really got to it. I'm one of those guys who I will learn the bare minimum and I'll get by, and that's where.
Yeah, don't get me started on that.
Yeah, I was always that guy. It's like A- is where I'm coasting.
All right. So in school, you like, did your dad like come to the schools in his uniform, bring the patrol car, like, and the kids were like, yeah, like,
This is crazy, but again, different time. But I remember one specific year but my dad always wanted to be a part of my life from the day I was born to.
Now.
Now, yeah. So, but yeah, he'd always, every chance he got, he would try and make his face known at my school. And I'll tell you what, I used to kill it at career day. when my friends would bring their accountant family members or their their hostess moms or something like that, I'm like, I'm bringing my police officer dad, and I used to rock every career day. My dad would get standing ovations from all.
and he would come in uniform,
fifth graders.
everything.
There was one year where he brought the police. There was a police dog, and then he'd bring the police van, and the police vehicles, and he'd get us all handcuffed. Hopefully, I hope he cleaned the back seats before he threw us in there.
Probably not.
Yeah, he
He went to the car wash.
just the
So the
Heavy
kids
spray.
were like, yeah.
Oh yeah, they loved it. I became so popular because after second grade we moved and I had to start fresh at a new school, and it got even. I don't know how my parents always figured it out, but they they found the most non-melanated schools for me in the world. So I was always the one Mexican in the school, and I always had
Well, that's why we moved, because there was too much, so we had to move.
That's why I would stay inside, so I'd lose my skin tone and hopefully look more like all my school friends. But I'll tell you this one time in 5th grade. We mentioned it before, but it was a lost episode that we had. But in 5th grade, we had one career day. And my 5th grade teacher was a war nut. He loved everything about war. His favorite war was 5th grade. That was Mr. McCormick, one of my favorite teachers of all time. Yep. But in 5th grade, he found out my dad was in the war, or in the Operation Restore Hope in Mogadishu, Somalia. And so, you know, we did everything we could. And my dad brought his whole gear, including his M16 AR, to a elementary school.
Wow. All I see right now is that one guy, he was with, I don't know.
The DEA?
Yeah.
That shot himself?
Yeah. That's all. I'm just like, dang.
Yeah.
Number one, nothing was loaded. And this is the military equipment.
Yeah.
So this is like helmet, LBE, boots,
I mean, how long was that a class, man? You could, like, were you there from, like, was he the only one that day?
It was like
I was always last.
Yeah, it was like
they always put me up last.
I think he stayed an hour extra.
Yeah,
because he was there for a while because he explained every single thing. He spent 45 minutes on the M16 alone because you see, you're a 5th grader, you want to know everything about that assault rifle.
Even the girls were interested.
Yeah,
like
so I became very popular
was
that day.
Interested.
And none of the parents back. You know, I know
the principal invited me in. I would always see her right as
but
soon as I came in.
But did the parents know that their
parents were there?
5th grade kid was gonna see an AR or
the
whatever?
Parents were there. A lot of the parents were there because it's a non-melanated school, so most of the parents like come to school and watch whatever we're doing.
And so they loved it.
Yeah, they had even more questions.
Everyone loved it.
They had more questions than the
I might
actual
think
kids.
about that today, where a guy with all of his military gear and an M16 just walking into a elementary
right
school.
to the front doors.
Yep.
Principal.
I think all they had to do was put the what's it called? The
zip tie.
Yeah,
zip tie around.
That's what I did.
The bolt.
I didn't ask them. I did it on my own.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Wild times.
all the teachers knew me. You know, they loved. We're still friends with almost all their teachers.
That was a blessing and a curse because I couldn't get away with anything in class. My teachers would snitch on me as fast as I could. Kevin had a 97% in class instead of a 98. He's slipping up that week. They text my dad.
Did you ever forge your dad's signature like my son did?
I did one time. It was the scariest time of my life.
And did you get caught?
Because
Marcus got caught.
No, I didn't get caught.
No, he didn't get caught.
Because I forged my mom's signature because we had this thing in 3rd grade where you had to read 30 minutes a day. And when I was younger, I hated reading. Hated reading. I was a TV guy. You show me pictures, I'll read a picture book all day, every day.
Oh, me too.
When there's no pictures in the books, I had to change that quickly. Yeah, and I had to read 30 minutes a day, and the parent had to sign off. And once my dad found out about that, it was his mission to make sure I did that every single day. And how he found out was I guarantee you, I promise you, no one at David M. Cox Elementary School in 3rd or 4th grade was having their parents quiz them at the end of that 30 minutes every time they read. My dad would quiz me. He'd give me 5 questions. If I didn't get those 5 questions right, I had to restart my 30 minutes. So there were times where I'd be there for 3 hours because my dad wouldn't find the easy questions too. It'd be like read between the lines type of questions. So
And this would be at home. He would I'd
have to sit down in his. I remember I used to go in his bed or in our downstairs dining room.
So this was before or after he would head to work?
He'd come home for lunch. He'd come home for lunch because he was working his swing shift. So I think it was 8 p.m. 8 p.m. every day. He'd come home. My homework better be on that dining room table, finished, and then he'd quiz me after he checked my homework. He would literally make sure I had 100% on all my homework, and if I didn't have 100%, he'd erase my answers and tell me to figure it out again.
So you had time. I mean, you were able to take lunch at a certain time every night with a big department like Metro.
Yeah, 1 hour.
8 o'clock.
Like I could take a lunch, but literally in the middle of my lunch, we would get calls and have to like stop our.
There were
lunch.
some times where you'd have to leave.
You could call out a lunch and not be.
No. If I had to go, I had to go.
Oh.
But a lot of times, because we were with that group for like, I don't even remember. That group was together for a long time. So if they're like, hey, Lucero's at lunch. So if they hear a call, then they'd jump it and say, hey, we'll go. Leave him, let him be.
Yeah.
And then when it was their turn, I would do the same thing. If I saw them at lunch, I'm like, don't call him off lunch. I got this. Or give me 2 minutes, I'll clear, then I'll go get it. And so that's how we took care of each other, because he knows all of them. Like, he called them uncles.
Mm-hmm.
All my partners were basically uncles to him.
Yeah.
So, we took care of each other. We went to each other's parties, stuff like that. So, and then they watched out for him when I couldn't.
Yeah.
So you forged your mom's name, but did you get caught or?
I'm sure that was
Or
the
you just
only
don't
time.
remember?
I got called multiple times trying to forge it, but I was one of those kids that was like, I'm not reading today. So I did my best, the very best I could, and I just like, my mom didn't check everything as much as he did, so I think it was like a Friday, and my dad, I guess he phoned it in that day, and I just forged the signature, and I was like, I hate this book I'm reading. And yeah, so I that was the one time I got away with it, but not anymore. So he knows now.
Oh, I knew.
I'm sure you did. I probably did.
I wanted Marcus literally arrested because the high school was in the city's jurisdiction, and I was at the sheriff's office. So literally, what happened was him and another kid. It was so dumb. They took one piece of paper, ripped it in half, and then each signed. And then they were so dumb they turned it in together. So the lady grabs them and's like, I think these are fake.
That's one thing about being a Cobb's kid is you learn to
And
get sneaky.
and so then they call me, and I'm like asking Tammy like, hey, did you sign a note or something? And she's like, no. So I said, hey, we'll be down there. And then we get there. The principal's dad used to be a deputy, and he's like, oh, Marcus is a good kid, great kid, number one in. Not number one, but I mean pretty high up on the sports. Like, everyone loved him. They called him Fun Country. And I'm like, no, I want him arrested. He's like, I did way worse. I'm not having him arrested. The things I did when I said, so your dad didn't take, nope, I want him arrested. And he's like, we're not arresting him. So they gave him originally 3 or 4 Saturdays to pick up trash at the school. After one, they're like, yeah, we don't have time for this, and so you're done.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's why I wanted him arrested, because there was no accountability.
Yeah.
So
No, he struck enough fear for me to not. I knew it was going to go down if I did anything like that.
what about rules when you got your driver's license? So Marcus couldn't drive anyone around for the first 6 months, right? In California, there's a rule. What about Nevada? Did you guys, when you got your license, was there any rules like you couldn't have anyone in your car or anything like that? Or?
You're getting all the groceries. That's what it was. The moment I got my license, I was given a new stack of chores. I was driving everybody everywhere.
Just a family.
Yeah.
He wasn't allowed to have friends or anything.
Yeah, but I knew mine.
So you didn't like
Unless they needed a ride from practice or something.
But he would tell
and
us.
I would have to get the okay from him. But other than that, no, it wasn't I wasn't allowed to go to
So
parties.
you were school and home.
Yep, or practice.
And you never went to were you allowed to stay at anyone's house ever or anything?
So I was so focused on football. That's all I cared about. It was either me. I was doing my homework. I was at football practice, and then from practice I'd go home and I'd basically just be studying my plays, because at this time, from my freshman to my junior year, I was fighting my butt off to get the starting job for my high school, and so there was no room for me, because I was already at the bottom of the totem pole when I told coaches I want to play quarterback as a 5'9" Mexican. So the coaches were like, "No, you got to prove yourself." So that's all I ever did. Whenever I was either at home, I was either doing homework or doing something for football.
Wow.
And I'll have my leisure times on Saturdays where I play video games or something. But yeah, I really didn't do much.
No leisure time on Saturdays. We were out there training.
That's true. But at that and in those evenings.
But he wasn't out partying or drinking
No.
at parties like Marcus
we hung
was.
out his whole entire high school.
And my only real social settings were
Football players.
me and my friends would play Call of Duty, and we did.
And then family.
The whole night.
It was a big family.
Yeah, so I was kind of a square growing up, but I mean, it kept me out of trouble. I mean, the parties, the stories I heard from the parties, the more popular kids on my football team would go to, I'm just like, thank God I didn't go to those.
Plus, he also forgot to tell you, in middle school, he went to like church camp, so that kind of like the light bulb turned on as far as being a Christian.
Yeah.
So he also followed that, and the school he was at, I would say, just from me being there, 80% of them did drugs.
A lot
were on alcohol. Their kids didn't care about them. You know, like they could have beaten one team to go to regionals, and the day before, because they got to regionals, first time ever, they all got drunk.
Yeah,
I think he was the only sober one.
Yeah, so.
And they ended up losing that game by a lot.
Yeah.
So other than the whoopings, your dad like didn't take any major events away from you because you didn't really mess up enough to. Because I'm a bad dad then, because I took Marcus's junior prom away and like all kinds of stuff.
I didn't go to prom. I didn't go to homecoming.
Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't go. I used to go to Sadie. I got invited to Sadie Hawkins, but
that's right. He went to the dances where he got invited to.
So you didn't go to like a junior or senior prom?
No.
What?
I didn't think
we tried to force him too.
Yeah. I didn't feel like. Well, homecoming was because we had a game that day, and I was like, all right. I think homecoming
was after
that
the game.
Is it after or was it before?
Right after
that week. But I was preparing that whole time. I never had, and that's one thing is, I didn't have problems with girls too because my dad instilled all those values in me. But he also said that girls are a distraction, especially at a young age, from elementary to.
Although he
high
had
school.
one at 16, right?
No, I didn't. Well, that's when I was like, okay. Yeah, women aren't going to be a distraction to me. I'm just going to focus because I really wanted to play quarterback.
Right.
I wanted to be the starting quarterback. So I just knew, and all my friends had girlfriends, and that's all they were focused on. So I'm just like, all right, I trust my dad fully, and I saw what happens and what he told me come to fruition that, women are amazing, women are incredible, but in that time they can be a distraction.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what 1 Corinthians 7 talks about. Apostle Paul talks about it in 1 Corinthians. So, it's just, it'll take a lot of your attention away, which can be focused on greater things, which for me at that time was football.
Yeah. And you excelled at it.
Yeah, since they were 5 years old, right? I've been coaching them since he was 5, and it was always God, family, school, sports. And then I said, and everything else is down here.
Yeah.
And I don't really care about girls and Yu-Gi-Oh cards and all that other crap that these kids were doing at the time. So, and he went right by it. God, family, school, sports.
Yep.
Straight A student, graduated from UNR. Sports, excelled in sports. He's still probably in records books for throwing yards and touchdowns in the city. God, he's one of the most Christian men I know. I'm envious of him, the way he does that. And then God, family, and he loves hanging out with his family, with us, with the extended family. So, what we taught him, I guess, stuck to him.
Yeah.
So did you have a rule when he was young and started playing sports? Did you tell him right away, hey, like my dad, said, hey, you got to have C's. And then the minute I got my 1D, when I was living in Colorado with him, he, took football away from me. Mm-hmm. Was there a rule that you said there was a certain GPA, or he just had to get A's and B's or all A's or what?
4.0.
He had to get a 4.0?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or he couldn't play
excuses.
sports?
He'd give me a week grace period if I got a B on a report card. He'd be like, you get a week.
And I would talk to the teacher behind and say,
there was one time in 7th grade I had an 89.7. 89.7. Every teacher rounds it up. But my one math teacher didn't round it up that year. And it was a quarterly report card, so that's the big one. So my dad saw that report card and he was like, no, this ain't happening no more. You're slacking off. And he sat behind me for 3-4 weeks?
3-4 weeks.
In class?
Sat behind me in class.
Oh my God. This is a great episode. Man, I thought I was a hard ass.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry.
Try flirting with another girl when you have your dad right behind you. If I look to my left or my right, he's like, what are you doing? Why aren't you paying attention to the board? just right behind me.
Every day?
Every day.
I don't know why he was there was it because the swing shift, you'd start late. So, yeah, he'd be there in the morning.
No, in the morning, right after I dropped him off. I would stay there.
Yeah, because he wanted to figure out why I was getting
At an 89.7.
Yeah, which every teacher rounds up to an A, but not that teacher for whatever reason.
Wow.
Yep.
You were a hard.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough.
It had to be straight A's or you didn't play.
Yeah, and I let it happen one time where I think I had a C on a progress report because I hadn't turned
That
on.
was just progress. It wasn't the final.
It was like because I had missing assignments. I was sick that week. And my dad's like, you're not playing baseball this. It was a Tuesday, and he's like, you're grounded. You're staying in your room, and you're not playing baseball tonight.
Yep.
And from then on, I was like, oh, this mother love is serious. I really got to keep my hand. I can't get sick no more.
Wow.
I didn't go for the I'm sick, I can't play either. Like if you were sick, you were still gonna play.
Or go to school.
I wasn't
allowed to stay home from school.
And go to school.
If I told my dad I was sick in bed, he'd confiscate anything fun out of my room to make sure I was actually sick.
Dang.
He was my first kid.
Okay, so speaking of that, was he that hard on Ethan as he was on you?
My sister was, I'll mention again, she's
Like an angel?
academic. She's an academic. She picks up anything like that. She got that from I feel like I got a lot of my mom's genes to where she'd like coast to be good at school, but never super excel. I could be, I could have been like a super academic, but I was just like, I'm getting to this point. And my sister was always 99%, 100%.
She always wanted to be the best of the best.
She'd do the extra credit, like 100. She'd have 102% in a lot of classes. So she hardly ever, like, she would punish herself more than my dad would if she got a B in the class. Like, she would rip the teachers herself. Like, why do I have a B in this class, So my sister, she did her own punishments. So my dad didn't have to discipline her because she had her own discipline.
And this kid, just a small little story about this kid, right?
We're at like
we're in middle school.
Story
right?
time at the end.
And he's one of the smartest kids in middle school. And they got this program called GATE, Gifted and Advanced something.
I don't know.
It was a GATE program in middle school. Not middle school, I'm sorry. Elementary school. Right? So they're like, the teacher brought us in. What was the Japanese teacher's name?
Miss Raniata.
Yeah, Ms. Raniata. She's like, hey, I want to put your kid in this. And he's like sitting off to the side. And then she's like, yeah, he's going to have to do all his regular classwork. Then he's going to have homework from the other class. While this little kid goes and fails the test on purpose so he wouldn't be in GATE. Because he heard I got more homework to do. And we're like, how did this kid not pass this test?
And I didn't want to be considered a nerd. That's where the nerds went. So I was like, nope, I'm good.
So this is what I'm talking about. Like, he knew my level was 90. So if he was at 90, 91, 92, he's like, all right, I'm good. I ain't got to do no more.
Yep.
As long as I keep it above 90, I'm good. Whereas Heaven was like, heck no, how high can I go? Yeah. And this kid was just like, I'm at 90? All right, I'm good. I get to relax for the next 2 months. And that's how, but he could have been as smart as Heaven as far as grades. He still got straight A's, but they were on the 90 to 95. So, and I'm just like, you can't beat it into him. Like, dude, try your hardest.
And did you have the same shift once Ethan got to that age?
Yes, I had the same shift for all of their lives through high school.
So did you sit behind Ethan in class at all?
Like I said.
Then you got really relaxed.
Yeah, like with Heaven, it was a little bit.
Because he's the third kid,
well, not only
right?
that, but Heaven,
we were way relaxed on Morgan, so
he was allowed to get C's. My brother was allowed to get C's.
He could get C's.
Yeah.
So,
but he had a grace period. My dad was like, "You better get that up." But it wasn't like, "Oh, you are doing nothing but studying." Like if I ever even thought about getting a C, I was in my room, nothing allowed. I wasn't allowed to have fun. I had to make sure I was studying, doing what I could to get that grade up. But my brothers, they're like, "You have a 79."
Why was that, Domingo?
It's because it's difference of
the firstborn and the thirdborn,
plus their character.
Yeah, my brother.
He's a little bit stronger as far as like when you get hard on him. In Heaven, you didn't have to get on her. Like he said, she was so anxious about not getting straight A's. She would actually have anxiety. Like if she knew she bombed the test, she would come home and tell us right away. And then she'd go to the teacher herself, like I used to do for him, and say, hey, this kid needs extra credit to get his B up. or, to get it to 91 or whatever. She would do that on her own.
Yeah.
So we didn't have that. So with heaven, it was like, okay, like we could relax a little bit. But then EJ came, and this kid was like totally opposite from both of them.
Yeah.
He was more interested in women, still loved sports, but he was interested in that kind. And we're like, are you flipping kidding me?
The academics weren't really.
Yeah, so his academics kind of suffered a little bit.
He still was great. But.
And he was also more of a mama's boy. Like, he was the baby of the baby of the baby. And I know he's probably going to beat me up for this, but like his...
The youngest ones are. Morgan, he's still, when he's home for his barely 24 hours, Tammy and I will be sitting on the couch. He'll come sit right in between us and turn his back so Tammy can rub his back at 26 years old.
Yeah, so he was kind of like the baby, but he was also, he was sick a couple times on us. Like, these two were oxes. They never got sick. And Ethan got sick a couple times, so it was like, oh, shoot, like, we laid off of him a little
hospitalized
bit.
sick.
Yeah, like hospitalized sick.
Oh, wow.
So we kind of, like, laid off of him a little bit for, that kind of stuff. So it was like, and because of that, I couldn't bring it back up to that level.
Yeah, and if you pushed him, he'd shut down. That was his thing.
He wasn't, not that he wasn't as strong as them, but he was one of those that, took everything to heart.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, shoot.
Wears everything on his sleeve.
Exactly. Yeah. So we kind of like had to, he still ended up being A's and B's.
Yeah.
He never got a C in his life on the grades that counted.
Right.
And we're like, we're okay with that, And I think, same like him. I think he did it just enough to get by.
Yeah.
Like, he hated doing homework.
Right.
Hated it. And probably still hates reading. I don't think I've ever seen him read a book.
Hey, I never saw Marcus pick up a book in high school, and when he told us he wanted to go to law school, I just laughed. 'Cause I'm like, you're not going to.
That's the reason I didn't go to law
You'll never pass law school when you didn't even do your homework in high school.
We tried to get him there.
That was my actual plan when I went to UNR. Well, first it was civil engineering. Then I found out how much math I had to do. And I'm like, screw that.
And he was good at math.
Yeah, I was really good at math. But I was like, nope, can't do this anymore. And then I was like, all right, I was looking into law school, and I'm just like, that's a lot of paperwork.
Not only looking into it, he got a letter from UNR, like, recommending him to Boyd School of Law, one of the best schools. And I had a job for him already, because one of my buddy's wife works at a top law firm in town. And we got him, what is that thing called? Internship or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, hey, when's he coming in? This dude was like, nah, I'm not doing that.
Do it.
And his friend from football, you probably see his signs, Hennessy, Hot, and there.
Yeah.
That's one of his friends, and they offered him a job.
One of the guys on that billboard you went to school with? They look way older
No,
than
his son.
Okay.
His son was a receiver for him.
Oh, okay.
So his dad was like, hey, if you're going to law school, you got a place at our law firm as soon as you graduate. Then he found out you had to be in slacks.
No, I didn't care about dressing up.
Yeah, right. That's not what you told me.
All day, every day.
Yeah.
Paperwork all the time. And it's not fun reading. It's like laws and revised statutes and all that. I'm just like, oh.
All right, well, it's coming to that time for story time.
Story time.
Another one.
If you don't have one, your dad probably has one.
Let's see if they knock on my door. See if they knock on my door and arrest me this time.
I can bring back an EMS story. That's probably.
We haven't even talked about your EMS career.
Yeah, we did on the last episode.
In the last one?
A little bit, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh man, I guess I'll talk. I'll talk about the one where I think is my welcome to the EMS moment. You know how players
like
have
welcome
those
to the NFL
moment. I had a welcome.
Please
to
don't tell me that you were under a bridge with a female and.
No. It was. I think it was my second or third week on, and at the company I worked for, they ease you into EMS. So there's levels to working in as an ambulance. There's BLS, which is basic life support, which is all you do is CPR and give people oxygen. Then you have our ILS units, which is our intermediate life support, where we can do more things. We can do more airways, give more medications. And those were basically our transport units. They didn't have critical patients. So a lot of time, when I first started, that's the unit I was on because I was just a basic EMT. And then you have those paramedic critical care teams, which handle the worst of the worst, like the people who are dying. So I was on ILS, and I was just like, okay, this is easy. We're coasting. The first 2 weeks, I was literally just delivering people from hospital to hospital, picking up old people from the ground when they couldn't get up anymore and things like that. So there's this one time where, and mind you, so on those ILS units, we have an advanced EMT and basic EMT. And I was basic. The advanced EMT is the one who kind of calls the shots. He was brand new too. So he had just started. So, I mean, we get a call to a specialty hospital here in Vegas. I'm not going to say the name because, yeah. But, so we get a call. It was like for minor bleeding. That was the notes on our call. So we're just like, oh, okay. We're just going to pick this guy up, take him to Siena Hospital. Yeah, it's just, and all the notes said was 80-year-old or 90-year-old male, minor bleeding. So, we're cool. It's like middle of the day. We're just coasting, going through the day. And so we finally get to the specialty hospital. We buzz the door. And the moment those doors busted open, we're walking in with a gurney, and we're just like looking for the patient. And like 3 or 4 nurses start sprinting at us. And I'm just like, that usually doesn't happen on ILS. Why are you guys sprinting? What's going on? You know, my spidey sensors are going off. And so she's like, hurry, come get him, hurry. You got to get him out of here. I'm like, whoa, lady, this isn't critical. Like, he's fine. We'll get him when we can get him. And so he's in the back of the building. So we're walking towards, and you could see these nurses are panicking. And it was like 4 or 5 nurses in the room, and they see us. They finally get out of the way, and there's just this 90-year-old male laying in bed, and there's just blood. It's a full-size bed, and there's just blood, like a river of blood pouring on the left side of his bed. Like half of the bed was covered in blood. Oh. And I'm just like, that's not good. This is not I'm not getting paid enough for this. So I mean, I'm over here thinking like, the book didn't teach me any of this. What are we doing right now? So I'm like, am I in over my head? But I go right to, you know, this. What was happening was this guy was going through dialysis. So a lot of dialysis patients will have a fake port placed into their arms, where they could pump the whatever fluids that go into the. But it's connected to the artery, the brachial artery. Oh. So I guess it broke. So literally, there's just blood pumping from this guy's arm. So, I mean, we get there and we're looking at the vitals because we're like, all right, this guy's got to be, but he's fully awake. He's fine. He's heckling the nurses on the other side of the bed, which is, I hate to admit it, but it's hilarious. This guy was like Don Rickles in his prime. You see 4, and none of the nurses spoke English, so they were trying to find a vein. But a lot of medics will know, or EMTs will know that. When you're going through dialysis, and this guy's really old, you can't find veins. Those veins are destroyed. Yeah. So they're looking for veins. This guy's still bleeding out. So we just get a bunch of wrapping. We get the tourniquet. We look for a tourniquet, and then the whole specialty hospital, there wasn't one tourniquet. I'm like, what kind of place is this? So
you guys didn't have one?
I go out there and sprint to my truck, and I grab the tourniquet. We get it back. We get the tourniquet on there, and he's still bleeding, like crazy amount of blood. Oh. We check his vitals, and it's like 60 over 30. And people usually pass out at like 80 over 60 or 80 over 40, 90 over, like people start getting lightheaded. This guy was at like 40 over 60 over 30. I remember seeing it specifically. And I'm just like, why? How are you still awake? Like he's coherent and heckling people as they're trying to get an IV, and they couldn't get an IV to save their lives. So we get the tourniquet on, and yeah, he's still bleeding out. I'm just like, what do I do now? I can't stop. This bleeding's not stopping. So I call my supervisor, and what we're taught is the moment you put a tourniquet on, it's not working. You just put pressure on it and try and get yourself out of there. So I call my soup because I'm like, all right, I have no idea what's going on. This isn't working. He's like, oh, you said he has a fistula on? Well, the tourniquet's not going to work. It's a fake vein. You can't close that fake vein. And I told him specifically, I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? So, and he's just like, you just got to put pressure. We're good. We're going to get an ALS unit there, and we're going to get him out of there. So I had to hold pressure on this guy for a good about 8 to 10 minutes, just holding that the port closed with my hands, just hand pressure, and my hands are full of blood. It was getting inside my gloves. and I was just holding blood, and I was like, this guy's got to die soon. There's no way he's gonna make it out of here. But then that unit comes, and they just get him on the stretcher, get him out of there, and and then we were just like, all right, well, it's not our call anymore. Next call. We had no debrief, nothing. You just got to so, and then I returned back, and that medic was insane, incredible medic. He hits the craziest IVs I've ever seen. But yeah, he told me that. He's like, I couldn't get an IV on that person, so I had to take his sock off and get a vein in the toe. Oh. I'm like, how's that even possible? He's like, it's hard, but I did it. Wow. Yeah, we had to get some fluids in the guy. So they ended up getting fluids in the guy, and he ended up, surviving.
Oh, he did survive.
Yeah, I was just like, that old man. I think he was in the service or something, because that man was strong. I was just like, dude, they're just river of blood flowing from his arm.
I would have thrown up. Sorry.
I didn't have time to throw up. It was just like, we got to save this guy. That's all I could think about. So.
All right, well, that's episode
Crazy EMS
2.
Story.
Episode 2, and we're gonna do one more with our main man Kevin. So until next time, actually I don't know. This will drop after New Year's, so hopefully you had a safe New Year's and no drinking and driving.
Not hopefully, you better have a safe New Year.
Yep.
Call someone if you're drunk.
Yes, call Domingo.
Yeah, call.
Peace out.
See you guys.
Peace.